intercepted successfully.
US military says American and Saudi warplanes carried out strikes against Iran-backed groups in Iraq in retaliation to drone attacks targeting US forces and Saudi energy infrastructure.
Oil prices surged more than 3% in early Asian trading after US military said it intercepted multiple missiles launched by Iran. The spike reflects growing fears that escalating tensions in West Asia region could disrupt global energy supplies.
He was a tough cookie, darling, but he was beautiful. But he was also ready with a joke and a gleam in his eye.
President Donald Trump led tributes to Lindsey Graham as world leaders and Washington's political elite gathered for the funeral of the Republican senator in the U.S. Capitol.
US Senate advances sweeping Russian energy sanctions legislation as Ukrainian President Volodymyr Zelensky visited the capital. The vote is seen as a tribute to the bill's author, late Senator Lindsey Graham, on the day of his funeral.
Japan's Prime Minister says at least 13 people have died after a 7.1 magnitude earthquake hit Kumamoto region. Several people are severely injured, while others remain missing.
Amnesty International says Pakistani authorities must lift communications blackout following reports of lethal force used against protesters amid elections in Pakistan-occupied Kashmir. Dozens have reportedly been killed in recent crackdown.
India's Cockroach Janata Party threatens to resume its agitation after a Supreme Court interim order allowed authorities to continue investigating cases registered during the nationwide student protests.
India's dream run in the Commonwealth Games continues as Gulveer Singh becomes the first long-distance runner from the country to secure a silver medal. India's medal tally has now increased to 12.
Out of focus on World DNA, the US military says it has intercepted multiple missiles launched by Iran, ending a days-long respite in fighting between the sides.
In fact, this escalation marks Iran's first ballistic missile attack against a US base in the region after both sides had held fire over the weekend.
Iran's Revolutionary Guard said that they fired ballistic missiles, US Air Base and US Military Central Command Center in Jordan. The US Central Command said that Iranian Revolutionary Guard forces launched multiple ballistic missiles in an attempt to carry out a surprise attack on US forces deployed in West Asia, adding that all the missiles were successfully intercepted.
Saudi Arabia also confirmed that its forces had intercepted drones that targeted oil facilities in the east for second consecutive day. Country's defense ministry said that aerial defenses intercepted and destroyed several drones that were launched from Iraqi territory and carried out by militias linked to Iran.
In retaliation, the US Central Command said it struck Iran-aligned groups in Iraq that IRGC directed to attack US forces and Saudi energy infrastructure. CENTCOM informed that US and Saudi fighter aircraft targeted logistics sites across eastern Iraq in a joint operation.
Parallel to this, Yemen's Houthi rebels have announced that they targeted a Saudi oil tanker in the Red Sea with ballistic missiles for violating a blockade on the kingdom's ports. A Houthi military spokesperson identified the ship as NCC Ghazal, adding that it had been forced to turn back after it ignored repeated warnings.
Meanwhile, Iran has proposed Oman a temporary arrangement to reopen the Strait of Hormuz. Iran's Deputy Foreign Minister Kazim Gharibabadi told state television that under the new plan, one direction of traffic would pass through Iranian waters and part of the opposite route would also be in Iranian waters. He further said that Tehran rejected an Omani proposal for an equal division of transit routes between the two countries.
Our proposal is that one side, namely one designated shipping route, inbound, outbound, should completely lie on the side of the Islamic Republic of Iran, and part of the other route should lie within the territory of the Islamic Republic of Iran, so that Iran can effectively exercise oversight over inbound and outbound transit routes.
According to a report by Reuters, Oman presented Iran with a plan backed by Gulf states to manage the Strait of Hormuz, including collecting voluntary fees for using it. But a US official has rejected the idea of tolls or fees for ships transiting the strait. The US official reiterated that Hormuz is an international waterway that should be free of Iranian control or restrictions.
Now, the U.S. Central Command has even said that more than 20 Navy warships are operating across West Asia, supporting military missions, including strict enforcement of America's blockade against Iran. CENTCOM said that it has redirected 18 commercial vessels, disabled 2 and boarded 2 to ensure full compliance as of July 28th.
Well, Israeli Prime Minister Benjamin Netanyahu has described his latest White House meeting with President Donald Trump as one of the best discussions they have ever had.
Well, these closed-door talks, they focused on Iran's nuclear program, regional security and broader West Asia issues, while protesters gathered outside the White House to oppose Netanyahu's visit. Israeli Prime Minister Benjamin Netanyahu met US President Donald Trump at the White House for their first face-to-face talks since the war in Iran began. According to reports, the meeting lasted around 90 minutes, with both sides describing the discussions as positive and productive. According to Netanyahu, the two leaders reaffirmed their shared commitment to preventing Iran from acquiring nuclear weapons and discussed security arrangements important for Israel's future.
I just finished an excellent meeting with President Trump. When I say excellent, I don't mean it in a superficial way. A conversation with full partnership, with mutual support, with an understanding of the common goal of ensuring that Iran does not have nuclear weapons and other goals as well. It was one of the best conversations I've ever had with the President of the United States, our friend Donald Trump.
While the leaders met inside the White House, protests unfolded outside with dozens of faith-based demonstrators who gathered near Pennsylvania Avenue. Members of Orthodox Jewish group, along with Christian and other multi-faith groups, criticized Prime Minister Netanyahu's policies while calling for an end to the fighting in Gaza, an end to violence in the occupied West Bank, as well as greater emphasis on diplomacy over military action.
Well, United Nations has warned that the occupied West Bank is facing a rapidly deteriorating security situation.
Well, this comes amid the intensified military operations as well as localized clashes that have dramatically raised civilian casualties and the risk of wider regional escalation.
Citing persistent attacks by Israeli settlers on Palestinian communities in occupied West Bank, the UN official said that escalating violence over the past week had caused civilian casualties, displacement, property damage, and growing insecurity.
In the latest incident, Israeli police and protesters clashed in Tel Aviv during a rally against settler violence in the occupied West Bank on Tuesday. Protesters held signs, chanted slogans, and called for an end to attacks by Israeli settlers on Palestinians. The protest followed deadly violence last Friday, and that is when a standoff between Israeli settlers and Palestinians in the occupied West Bank left 6 people dead, including 4 Palestinians and 2 Israelis.
The reason I'm here today is because what we have seen coming out of the West Bank just the past week, but the past months and years is horrifying, it's immoral, and we believe that it is endangering not only Palestinians who are witnessing ethnic cleansing and the evacuation of their homes, but it's also endangering all of us.
Recalling his recent visit to the Gaza Strip, the UN official said humanitarian conditions had improved marginally, but progress is far too slow. Footage captured the moment an Israeli airstrike struck a mosque in Gaza City on Tuesday that triggered a large explosion and sent thick smoke and flames into the air.
United Nations says that 18 Palestinians have been killed in incidents linked to settler attacks this year itself, which is compared to 17 last year. The Palestinian Authority puts the death toll at least 20 since the start of the year. The United Nations, Palestinians and most countries maintain that Israeli settlements in occupied West Bank are illegal under international law. Israel disagrees to this, maintaining that the territory is disputed and has cited historical as well as biblical ties to the land. Shifting focus to Japan, at least 13 people have been killed after a powerful 7.1 magnitude earthquake struck southwestern part of the country.
The tremors toppled buildings, sparked fires, damaged bridges, derailed a cargo train and buckled roads across the region. Now, Japan's Fire and Disaster Management Agency says that the victims include people killed in a severely damaged shopping mall in Kashima. Authorities also believe a gas leak triggered an explosion at the mall about 30 minutes after the quake. Regional officials said 10 people remained unaccounted for at the shopping complex.
The Japan Meteorological Agency measured the quake at magnitude 7.1, while the US Geological Survey recorded it at 6.8. The tremor struck Kumamoto Prefecture on Japan's southern island of Kyushu, followed by multiple aftershocks, which included one that measured 6.1. Around 300,000 people have been urged to evacuate as aftershocks still continue.
The earthquake also damaged the historic Kumamoto Castle, with part of its centuries-old moat wall collapsing. The landmark was already heavily damaged during the devastating 2016 Kumamoto earthquakes.
I felt as if my body was hovering mid-air, so for a moment I didn't realize it was an earthquake. It was only when I saw it collapse, the wall, that it dawned on me that it was an earthquake.
In response, Japan's military has deployed 3,600 personnel and 20 aircraft to support rescue and damage assessment operations. Prime Minister Sanai Takaichi has urged residents to move to safety, while saying that the government would prioritize saving lives.
The Takaichi administration will do our utmost. We will respond with the full force of the government, prioritizing human lives above all else.
Now, authorities say no abnormalities have been detected at nearby nuclear power plants, with all operating reactors functioning normally. Remember, Japan sits on the Pacific Ring of Fire and experiences hundreds of earthquakes every year. The country remains shaped by memories of the 2011 magnitude 9 earthquake and tsunami, which killed over 19,000 people and triggered the Fukushima nuclear disaster. Well, a major new assessment is raising questions about US President Donald Trump's military campaign against maritime drug trafficking.
Well, despite dozens of strikes, hundreds of deaths, and the destruction of scores of suspected smuggling boats, US officials reportedly say that the flow of cocaine into America remains largely unchanged.
According to an internal assessment by the US Drug Enforcement Administration, also known as DEA, and reviewed by the Washington Post, Trump's military campaign has failed to reduce either the supply or the street price of cocaine in the United States. Instead, investigators reportedly say trafficking networks have rapidly changed their methods to avoid US operations.
The DEA assessment says smugglers have moved away from go-fast boats, which are a type of small fast power boats, and instead are choosing larger vessels that reportedly stay close to coastlines. And this is where US forces are allegedly less likely to open fire.
The report also identifies new smuggling routes, including longer Pacific crossings, more direct Caribbean corridors, and greater use of aircraft departing from clandestine airstrips along the Colombia-Venezuela border before flying east through Guyana and Suriname.
Since September last year, US forces have struck at least 67 boats, killing at least 221 people in these strikes. Pentagon officials reportedly told US lawmakers, and this was in a closed-door briefing last month, that the strikes in international waters of South and Central America had not reduced the purity of cocaine reaching the United States.
DEA analysts reportedly say the US campaign initially disrupted trafficking after it began last September, driving up cocaine prices and triggering more drug-related violence. But those effects proved temporary.
The assessment reportedly concludes that traffickers adapted quickly and that cocaine prices and availability have now returned to previous levels.
The findings directly challenge repeated public claims by US President Trump on at least 15 occasions, including last month. Trump reportedly said the strikes had cut maritime drug trafficking into the US by 97 to 98%. In an April post on Truth Social, he wrote that 98.2% of drugs coming into the US by ocean or sea have stopped.
Even as renewed strikes on Iran have achieved very precious little for America, President Donald Trump believes that he is winning the war.
Well, at least on social media, Trump's latest Truth Social spree saw him upload over 40 posts in 6 hours. Take a look at this AI-generated photo, for instance. Resembling a film poster, it depicted Trump rescuing America's first president, George Washington, from danger at Mount Rushmore with time travel. What added to the drama is that the poster's intriguing tagline, which reads, "The past was about to change, history was about to be saved."
Now, this was not an isolated film poster. Take a look at another one that has surfaced, surrounded by stars, planets, and even spaceships. Trump looms large and was branded as a cosmic commander who is set to unleash a new era.
The US president also continued to gloat over America's military prowess. This post, for instance, it shows a large Trump in the sky with military jets hovering around. Explosions can be seen rocking areas marked as Iran, while a caption said "Guardians of the World."
A similar version of this post depicted 5 American jets in the sky bombing Iran. They were described as guardian angels of the world. In fact, this is not all. Another Truth Social post by President Trump showed US fighter planes unleashing their fire on the Kharg Island, which accounts for 90% of Iran's oil exports.
Now also take a look at this post next. Here Trump is seen steering the engine of a vessel. This comes amid America's ongoing naval blockade, which is preventing ships from entering or exiting Iranian ports.
What followed next is Trump's typical playbook. This post portrays a large Iranian vessel whose engine room is on fire.
Yet another post showed the extent to which Trump is desperate to showcase his triumph over Iran. The scene depicts an Iranian vessel where the US president is seen hoisting the American flag with the Iranian flag lying on the ground. The post proclaims that it is our oil tanker now.
This also comes at a time when US suspended its strikes on Iran, which have now resumed, citing that it was giving some space to talks. Yet again, Trump asserted that it was Iran which urged US to stop the attacks. This is a claim which Tehran has repeatedly rubbished.
You know, they wanted to talk. Their people said, please don't shoot last night, the night before, 2 nights. Don't do it. You know, we're having good talks. So we'll see what happens. I think there's a good chance that something could happen. And if it does, good. If it doesn't, we go back to doing what we were doing 2 days ago.
Now, artificial intelligence is helping save lives, and in South Korea and Japan, AI-powered cameras are spotting people at risk of suicide and alerting emergency teams within seconds.
Well, the system has pushed rescue rates above 99%. However, experts say that technology alone cannot solve the growing mental health crisis. Take a look at this special report.
The Han River runs through the heart of Seoul. It is one of South Korea's most famous landmarks. But it has also become one of the country's most common suicide hotspots. Now, artificial intelligence is helping first responders act before it's too late. AI-powered cameras monitor 17 bridges across the river in Seoul. They look for warning signs, like someone standing in one place for too long or entering restricted areas, and then alert the authorities.
The role of the AI is to first detect all moving objects within the bridge. It then distinguishes whether they are people or not. If an object that has been identified as a person performs a certain action, a pop-up screen like this is displayed to our operators. The operators then check the displayed screen and determine whether it is something that needs to be monitored or whether it can simply be ignored.
Last year, nearly 900 cameras detected more than 1,200 emergencies. Most people were rescued, but 8 lives were still lost. South Korea government data shows suicide rate rose to more than 29 deaths for every 100,000 people in 2024. The World Health Organization estimates more than 720,000 people die by suicide every year worldwide, making it a major global public health challenge. South Korea is not alone. Around the world, countries are testing AI to detect people in danger. In Japan, AI systems are being used in train stations, shopping centers, and other public places to spot unusual behavior and warn security staff.
Security and station staff use this tool to monitor people's behavior, to keep an eye on people who may be in trouble, such as when they collapse or fall, or to detect signs of what is likely to happen next by identifying certain movements.
For many experts, the lesson is clear. Artificial intelligence can buy precious time. But preventing suicide still depends on people, support, and access to mental health care. Bureau report, WION World is one.
We're slipping into a short break, but we'll be back with more news and updates on the other side. Stay tuned to WION World is One. You're watching World TN.
elections, alliances, controversies, and power play. Stories that analyze global and domestic politics. A dedicated show with varied perspectives, expert take, citizens' voices, detailed ground reports, and in-depth coverage from political corridors of the world. This is Race to Power, only on WION.
Know more, understand better, think ahead. Hello and a very warm welcome. You are watching Gravitas with me, Molly Gambhir. Get the facts, not the bombast. On the 26th of March, dynamic pricing, Baloch separatists, Gravitas cuts out the clutter. Gravitas keeps calm when others scream. Gravitas brings news to life. Weekdays, 9 p.m. IST, 3:30 p.m. GMT. Gravitas. Seeing is believing.
Get the latest updates. Breaking news. Credible, clear, continuous. Experts across aisles. Diverse voices, one platform. WION World is one.
In this rapidly changing world, is your health keeping pace? Best practices and breakthroughs, busting the hype with real insights. The timeless power of yoga and ancient healing. Good food, good mood. Small steps, big impact. Your health matters. Only on WION World is One. Because nothing matters more.
WION, India's global voice. The channel that brings you the biggest stories from across the world through India's lens. Now available in more than 190 countries worldwide. Because we believe that the world is one. Watch us in Africa, Europe, USA and Canada, South America, Asia Pacific, Middle East and North African regions. Also available on these digital platforms across the world. WION. World is one.
Welcome back. You're watching World DNA with me, Samiksha and Kripa. Let's begin with the headlines.
India's Cockroach Janata Party threatens to resume its agitation after a Supreme Court interim order allowed authorities to continue investigating cases registered during the nationwide student protests.
The Lok Sabha will resume discussion on the Public Examinations Amendment Bill today. The bill, which proposes stringent measures to prevent leaks of examination papers, saw a spirited debate on Tuesday.
Iran fires multiple ballistic missiles at American forces in West Asia, ending a brief lull in fighting. US Central Command claims all missiles were intercepted successfully.
US military says American and Saudi warplanes carried out strikes against Iran-backed groups in Iraq in retaliation to drone attacks that targeted US forces and Saudi energy infrastructure.
Japan's Prime Minister says at least 13 people have died after a 7.1 magnitude earthquake hit Kumamoto region. Several people are severely injured while others remain missing.
Amnesty International says Pakistani authorities must lift communications blackout following reports of lethal force used against protesters amid elections in Pakistan-occupied Kashmir. Dozens have reportedly been killed in recent crackdown.
Apple has briefly topped a $5 trillion market value, becoming only the second company ever to reach the milestone after Nvidia. Shares hit a record high before easing, with investors upbeat ahead of Apple's earnings report.
India's dream drawn in the Commonwealth Games continues as Gulbir Singh becomes the first long-distance runner from the country to secure a silver. India's medal tally increases to 12.
The Cockroach Janata Party, which led the agitation against exam paper leaks, is now threatening to resume its protests after a Supreme Court interim order allowed authorities to continue investigating cases registered during the nationwide student protests.
In fact, adding to that, Kripa, the CJP has said that the order was contrary to the assurances that were given by the central government during negotiations that ended protests at Jantar Mantar. The interim order came during hearing a batch of petitions against the alleged use of excessive force against protesting students. A bench led by Chief Justice of India, Surya Kant, ordered that no coercive action should be taken against protesters and ordered the release of eligible detained students, asked authorities to preserve CCTV footage and other electronic evidence. It even called for a fair investigation into the injuries suffered by both protesters and police personnel.
The court, though, did not order the withdrawal of existing FIRs and allowed investigations to continue. Reacting to the order, CJP leaders warned that it would launch another nationwide protest if the government failed to keep its promises. CJP founder Abhijit Dipke alleged that students were facing police witch hunting after the recent agitation.
Spokesperson Saurav Das said that the Supreme Court's order stands in direct contradiction to the assurance as well as guarantee that was extended by the Government of India, which led Cockroach Janata Party to call off its nationwide protest. He added that it was troubling that the government lawyers did not oppose the order despite being aware of the assurances given to the CJP and the protesters.
हम चाहते हैं कि आगे भी चल के अगर कोई भी डिसीजंस होते हैं छात्रों के हित में अगर आप लेते हो और अगर आपने उसको प्रॉमिस किया है तो वो आप रखिए। अगर आप नहीं रखते हो तो हम बता देना चाह रहे हैं कि हम लोग फिर से एक बहुत बड़ा प्रोटेस्ट का ऐलान करेंगे। दिल्ली में होगा, दूसरे स्टेट्स में भी होगा। एक तरीके से पूरा नेशन वाइड हम लोग फिर से प्रोटेस्ट करेंगे क्योंकि जो छात्रों का हित है उस पे हम लोग काम करते रहेंगे।
After the Supreme Court order, Maharashtra government has started the process to withdraw cases against students. In West Bengal, the government said it would not take coercive action against students, but cited the Supreme Court order to clarify that this shall not extend to persons having criminal antecedents. On Monday, Assam and Bihar had announced withdrawal of FIRs connected with the protests.
Shifting focus then, concerns have been growing over the safety of Indian seafarers who have been operating in conflict zones.
This is after reports that 13 Indians are among the 15 crew members stranded aboard a cargo ship at Ukraine's Chornomorsk port. This amid repeated drone and missile attacks in the area. The vessel MV Amir 1, it is currently docked at the Black Sea port.
The Forward Seamen's Union of India says 15 crew members are on board, including 13 Indian nationals. It has urged ship owners, relevant authorities and the Government of India to arrange their safe evacuation and repatriation.
This comes a few days after the merchant vessel MV AGN Ragnar was struck at Ukraine's Odessa port, impacting 4 Indian crew members on board. The Indian embassy in Kyiv confirmed that 2 crew members are safe while searching for the remaining 2. In another incident in the Black Sea, India's foreign ministry raised the issue with Ukrainian authorities following an attack on the merchant vessel MV Omorfi near the port of Odessa.
4 Indian crew members were on board that ship that killed 1 Indian national, prompting New Delhi to even condemn attacks on commercial shipping and call for greater protection of civilian seafarers. The incident highlights the growing role of India in global shipping.
The BIMCO ICS Seafarer Workforce report says that India has emerged as the world's second largest supplier of seafarers, contributing more than 311,000 maritime professionals. Indian seafarers now account for over 12% of the global maritime workforce, trailing only the Philippines.
The risks faced by crews at sea were also underscored in the South China Sea. This is where search operations continue after Vietnamese cargo ship sank near the disputed Spratly Islands.
48 of the 62 people on board have been rescued, while 14 remain missing. Vietnamese, Philippine and Chinese rescue teams are continuing a multinational search effort in challenging conditions. Myanmar's military-backed parliament has approved a landmark anti-online scam law that introduces the death penalty for the most serious cyber scam offences.
While the legislation targets those who detain, torture or violently coerce victims into working in online scam centers. In fact, this also marks the toughest legal action yet against the country's sprawling cyber fraud networks.
The anti-online scam bill was passed in Parliament after lawmakers approved the final version of the legislation. The law provides for capital punishment where victims die as a result of violence, torture, or unlawful detention used to force them into cybercrime. It also prescribes life imprisonment for those who operate online scam centers or mastermind large-scale cryptocurrency fraud.
The move comes as Myanmar remains at the center of Southeast Asia's multi-billion-dollar scam industry. Organized crime syndicates have exploited the country's prolonged civil conflict to establish fortified scam compounds where many foreign nationals have been reported as trafficked, held captive and forced to run online investment and romance scams, targeting victims across the globe.
Now, the legislation, it is the first major law enacted under the new government headed by former junta chief Min Aung Hlaing, who became civilian president after widely criticized elections earlier this year. While authorities describe the law as a decisive step against organized cybercrime, critics argue that Myanmar's military-backed parliament lacks democratic legitimacy and question whether the legislation will address the deeper instability that has allowed scam networks to flourish.
President Donald Trump hailed Lindsey Graham as true American original as world leaders and country's political elite gathered for the funeral of Republican senator at Washington National Cathedral.
Well, Graham died on July 11 at the age of 71 from complications linked to cardiovascular disease. Graham's flag-draped casket was carried into the cathedral by military pallbearers as President Trump sat in the front row alongside Vice President J.D. Vance.
Speaking before a gathering that included Israeli Prime Minister Netanyahu and Ukrainian President Zelensky, Trump recalled that South Carolina senator's humor and popularity across political circles.
But no matter how heated things got in Washington, virtually everyone, Republican or Democrat, liked Lindsey. Well, not everybody, but it sounds good. Not everybody. He was a tough cookie.
Trump also joked about his once rocky relationship with Graham during the 2016 Republican presidential campaign, sharing that he had once shared Graham's phone number to the public.
And I remember the number 202-228-0292 if anybody wants to give it a shot. His phone exploded. He said, I had that number for 20 years. His phone totally, I don't know what he did with it, but it exploded. That was the beginning of a friendship in a way. But it was Lindsey who had the last laugh because while I blew up his phone for one day, we became great friends, and Lindsey did not stop calling me for the next 10 years. It was not easy.
In an interesting moment, Trump was even seen offering some Tic Tacs to Vice President J.D. Vance and Secretary of the Treasury Scott Bessent.
Now let us take a look at other stories making headlines across India. An evening cloudburst struck several villages in the Devsar area of South Kashmir's Kulgam district, triggering flash floods. The incident damaged standing crops, while flood water entered several houses, causing panic among residents. Authorities have started assessing the damage, and more details are awaited.
Top Maoist leader Misir Besra, who carried a bounty of over 1 crore rupees, has been arrested from Jharkhand's Dhanbad district on Tuesday evening. Besides Besra, 2 other Maoists were also arrested during the operation. In fact, earlier in the day, 16 Maoists, with 6 of them carrying a combined bounty of 39 lakh rupees, also surrendered before the Jharkhand police.
Tripura police has expanded the special investigation team probing the death of DGP Anurag Dhankar by inducting 7 additional officers, increasing the strength of the panel from 3 to 10 members. The move comes amid growing pressure from opposition parties seeking a judicial inquiry into the incident.
The Karnataka government is set to challenge the Kaveri Water Regulation Committee's recommendation directing the state to release 3,500 cusecs of Kaveri water daily to Tamil Nadu for the next 15 days. The state citing severe drought conditions and an acute water shortage. Karnataka Water Resources Minister said that the state would file an appeal before the Kaveri Water Management Authority against the recommendation after consulting legal experts. Shifting focus to the world of business, it's the Trump administration that has set an ambitious goal to end America's dependence on Chinese critical minerals by January next year.
But despite billions of dollars in government support and stricter procurement rules, the U.S. mining and processing industry remains far from ready. Our next report delves into the widening gap between U.S. ambitions and industrial reality. Take a look.
The Trump administration has made reducing America's dependence on Chinese critical minerals a national security priority. Under federal rules, defense contractors are expected to stop buying rare earths and magnets from China, Russia, Iran and North Korea by January 1st, 2027. President Donald Trump has also tightened waiver rules, insisting federal agencies buy American wherever possible. But with just over 5 months to go, industry executives quoted say the U.S. supply chain is nowhere close to meeting domestic demand. Despite billions of dollars in government support for nearly 150 mining and processing companies, the country's production capacity remains far below what manufacturers require. The numbers highlight the challenge. In 2025, the United States required around 48,000 metric tons of the most widely used rare earth magnets, but domestic producers supplied only about 300 metric tons. Capacity is expected to rise to roughly 5,000 metric tons by the end of this year, still only a fraction of demand. The United States has not produced tungsten since 2015 or tantalum since 1959, while China continues to control more than 80% of global critical minerals processing. Although the United States has reserves of many strategic minerals, it lacks sufficient mining, refining and magnet manufacturing capacity. The International Energy Agency has also warned that as much as $6.5 trillion in global manufacturing could be exposed to disruptions if China tightens export controls on rare earths. The Trump administration is responding with large-scale investments. This includes a $12 billion critical minerals stockpiling program and Pentagon funding for domestic mining, refining and magnet manufacturing projects. However, many of these projects will not begin commercial production until 2027 or later, with some major facilities scheduled to open as late as 2028 or 2030. Industry analysts say building a complete domestic supply chain from mining and refining to magnet production will take years, making it unlikely that US manufacturers can fully replace Chinese supplies before the January 2027 deadline. Business Bureau, WION World is One.
Well, Google is facing a new legal challenge in Europe as series of private lawsuits could cost the company up to $10 billion.
The claims follow a landmark ruling under the European Union's Digital Markets Act, which found Google had breached the bloc's rules for big tech. The case stems from a $1 billion penalty imposed under the EU's Digital Markets Act, or DMA. Now, the DMA, it is a European law designed to prevent the largest digital platforms from abusing their market power and to ensure fair competition for rival services. EU regulators found Google had favored its own services and restricted app developers from directing users to cheaper payment options outside the Google Play Store.
Legal experts say the ruling could encourage a wave of private compensation claims from companies that believe they were harmed by Google's business practices. These cases are already emerging in several European countries, with lawyers and litigation financiers expecting many more to follow. Both of the biggest cases so far involve German price comparison website IDLO, which was awarded $528 million in damages by a Berlin court last year. In Germany's largest antitrust damages award to date, lawyers even say new claims could seek compensation not only under the Digital Markets Act, but also under older EU competition rules that prohibit the abuse of a dominant market position.
Now, Google has rejected these claims, saying the lawsuits are being brought by companies seeking financial payouts rather than competing through better products. The company has already paid billions of dollars in EU antitrust penalties since 2017. However, the latest legal battle could prove even more costly as private lawsuits seek damages in addition to regulatory fines. The medals just keep raining in for India at the 2026 Commonwealth Games.
Well, in a historic moment, it's Kulveer Singh who has become the first Indian to secure a podium finish and win a silver medal in the men's 10,000 meters event amidst wet and damp conditions.
Well, dark clouds might have assembled over Glasgow, but that did not deter Kulveer Singh from etching his name in the record books. As showers kept drizzling, the 28-year-old blended patience and tactical brilliance to finish the race in 27 minutes and 49.7 seconds.
For a major part of the race, Kulveer hung in with the leading pack and did not expend unnecessary energy. However, when the sound of the bell for the final lap echoed across the stadium, Kulveer bursted with a blistering sprint that enabled him to secure a second position at breakneck speed, overtaking Isle of Man's David Mullarkey, who finished third with a bronze medal. Meanwhile, Australia's Kai Robinson secured gold in the 10,000 meter event. The result has made Kulveer Singh India's leading long-distance runner.
Alongside the lightning-fast legs of Singh, India even showcased their brilliance in weightlifting once again by flexing the right muscles as Harjinder Kaur clinched the silver medal, produced a career-best performance in the women's 69 kg category. She lifted a personal best of 227 kilograms, finishing second behind Canada's Charlotte Simoneau.
With this, India's medal tally has increased to 12, with 7 in weightlifting, 2 in athletics, 2 in para-athletics and 1 in para-weightlifting. From the world of entertainment, our Greek Prime Minister has lauded filmmaker Christopher Nolan for putting a modern spotlight on ancient Greece with his latest film, The Odyssey.
Well, the Greek Prime Minister congratulated the British director in a teleconference on the success of the movie that has renewed international interest in Homer's ancient epic.
The Prime Minister thanked Nolan for the film's contribution to boosting global interest in ancient Greek civilization.
And while the film continues to draw big numbers, The Odyssey has also generated public debate and criticism. Even before the film's release, its casting had been a topic of discussion. Tech titan Elon Musk on multiple occasions criticized the film, which in his opinion desecrated the story. He also criticized Nolan for casting Lupita Nyong'o as Helen of Troy and transgender actor Elliot Page as the Greek warrior Sinon. In Greece, there has been criticism over the lack of Greek actors in the movie beyond extras. Mitsotakis, however, congratulated Nolan on the film's great box office success and expressed appreciation that a significant part of the production was filmed in Greece. For those unaware, several scenes were shot in Messenia and Corinth in southern Greece.
Well, with that, it's a wrap on this edition of World DNA. News and updates to continue. You're watching WION World is One. Stay tuned.
elections, alliances, controversies, and power play. Stories that analyze global and domestic politics. A dedicated show with varied perspectives, expert take, citizens' voices, detailed ground reports, and in-depth coverage from political corridors of the world. This is Race to Power on WION.
Know more? Understand better? Think ahead. Hello and a very warm welcome. You are watching Gravitas with me, Molly Gambhir. Get the facts, not the bombast. On the 26th of March, dynamic pricing, Baloch separatists, Gravitas cuts out the clutter. Gravitas keeps calm when others scream. Gravitas brings news to life. Weekdays, 9 p.m. IST, 3:30 p.m. GMT. Gravitas. Seeing is believing.
Get the latest updates. Breaking news. Credible, clear, continuous. Experts across aisles. Diverse voices, one platform. The WION World is one.
In this rapidly changing world, is your health keeping pace? Best practices and breakthroughs busting the hype with real insights. The timeless power of yoga and ancient healing. Good food, good mood. Small steps, big impact. Your health matters. Only on WION World is One. Because nothing matters more.
Campaigns, elections, alliances, controversies, and power play. Stories that analyze global and domestic politics. A dedicated show with varied perspectives, expert take, citizens' voices, detailed ground reports, and in-depth coverage from political corridors of the world. This is Race to Power on WION.
Thanks for staying with us. You're watching WION World is One. I'm Aditya Juneja and this is Speed News. Let's start with all the stories making headlines today. US President Donald Trump led tributes to Republican Senator Lindsey Graham as world leaders and Washington's political elite gathered in the US Capitol for his funeral. The service honored Graham's political career and his influence within the Republican Party. Senior US officials and international figures attended the ceremony to pay their respects. The US Senate has confirmed President Donald Trump's nominee Jay Clayton as Director of National Intelligence in a 51-47 party line vote. Clayton, a former Manhattan US Attorney and Securities and Exchange Commission Chairman, will now oversee the nation's 18 intelligence agencies. His confirmation followed a heated hearing where Democrats questioned him over election-related issues, including his refusal to directly answer who won the 2020 presidential election. Supporters defended Clayton's qualifications, citing his legal experience and national security work, while critics raised concerns over his lack of intelligence background. He replaces Tulsi Gabbard, who stepped down from the post in the month of June. Israeli Prime Minister Benjamin Netanyahu has described his latest White House meeting with US President Donald Trump as one of the best discussions the two leaders have held. The closed-door talks focused on Iran's nuclear program, regional security and broader West Asia issues. The meeting, which lasted around 90 minutes, was described by both sides as positive and productive. Netanyahu said the leaders reaffirmed their shared commitment to preventing Iran from acquiring nuclear weapons and discussed security arrangements important for Israel's future. Outside the White House, protesters gathered to oppose Netanyahu's visit and call for changes in the US policy in the region.